Hello, my name is Judith Sullivan, and I will be presenting a child abuse case. Just a forewarning, I will be reading my slides off of my tablet. If you want to, you can follow along, of course. Just as a warning, there wasn't any court documents that I could find on this case. All I really have to go off of is news articles and such forth. So unfortunately, there's not any real court documents or anything like that in this case. It seems like possibly they were sealed or something due to the nature of the case. So keep that in mind as we go through. So this will be on Ashley Dack and Patrick S. is what I'm going to call him. So we will be referring to them as Dack, and S. So just keep that in mind as we go along. The first question that was asked was, is the case criminal or a civil case? This is obviously a criminal case because the law was broke many times over. There's actually a second-degree felony charge of sexual performance by a child under Texas Penal Code 43.25b and a federal super aggravated sexual assault charge under Penal Code 22.021F. The parties involved were the prosecutor, the defendant, the co-defendant, and the defense attorney. Is this a felony or a misdemeanor? Like I said before, there were felony charges, so these are all felony charges. None of them are misdemeanors from what I could tell. So I decided to do the defense's point of view, and honestly, there's just not much they can do. They can pin the co-defendant and the defendant on each other. They can try and plead guilty but insane, but that's not going to work out very well with the evidence that's stacked against them. They could also say that the people weren't, maybe someone stole their phone and that's how these two were talking, and it looks like it's Dack and Mr. S. However, it's not. But in the prosecutor's evidence side of things, there's just really no way that I could see them proving that at all. So that's kind of the defense's point of view from my standpoint. Then I did the prosecutor's suggested actions that I would, of course, suggest they take. So in this case, Stephen Driver was the prosecutor, so I'm kind of acting as him. First off, I'd bring up the evidence. This includes several texts between the defendant and co-defendant, as well as videos and pictures that are very graphic, and we'd have to blur at certain points, to, obviously. Secondly, I'd bring up the kids' parents, the victim's parents. If they had been told anything by the children previous to the trial, maybe it was something that was said and then kind of brushed off as either a lie or some, imagination, something like that. And the parents didn't realize it was really serious until it was. And, she was not proven at this point, but she was on trial for these charges. Thirdly, I'd have the assaulted children previous to the trial, so I guess this would be one, but previous to the trial, I'd have the children that were assaulted go to counseling, and if the parents agreed to it, have that counseling appointment recorded so that we could see what they did without having to have them be on the stand or anything, just because you don't want them involved much at all, if at all possible. So I would try and do that before anything. I'd remind the court that we are here to bring justice for the kids that were traumatized and abused by the defendant and co-defendant. I would just try and help them realize that this isn't a small case. This isn't, we're here to help these children that we have just heard presumptuously on recording. So I will now be reading you some of the text evidence, and it's pretty graphic. It's pretty rough. But this is what you have to do as a prosecutor. There's 3 different text conversations that go on, and I will be reading them to you one at a time. So the first one is, Dack says, "Oh, honey, I never know. There was a little girl at lunch with blonde pigtails, kept dancing around on the floor. Wanted you to be hiding in my car, and I could bring her to you. Maybe 4." And that's talking about her age. And then Mr. S said, "Would love that. Would you join us or leave us alone?" And Dack said, "Join you. We could use the seatbelt to hold her down and wrap around her neck so she couldn't wiggle because it would be tighter and tighter." And then Mr. S said she'd be so scared. And Dack comes back with, "But no one could hear her if we were in my car." And Mr. S said, "I would hold her neck and head as you pulled her pants off." Mr. S then says, "What can we do this weekend to feed our twinkles?" Dack says, "Try the pool. I must see if little P wants to come, too. Always looking for pictures." Mr. S says, "Can't wait to see and touch." Evidence 2 is Mr. S starts off this conversation by saying, "Going to get our pics tonight?" And then there was a picture sent about obviously a sexually graphic image to Mr. S. And then he says, "Incredible. Best I've ever seen. Thank you. Thank you so much for my gift. Sweet dreams." Dack then says, "One night, Little passed out on the love seat. I checked on her, and when she didn't move, I felt her panties under her shorts. She had pissed, but I used it as an excuse to ask her over and over if she had." Then Mr. S said, "I thought you told me before you tested her, but never told me when that was." And then Dack said, "So I played with her a little. She didn't move." Mr. S said, "Did you like her, baby?" And that's the end of the evidence that I could find for that. I'm sure, obviously, there was more of a conversation had. However, it just wasn't publicly available that I could find. The third text evidence is Dack starts off by saying, "And I think I'm babysitting P tomorrow night." Mr. S says, "Would love for you to. Awesome. On a Friday night?" Dack says, "Yes, Friday. You should come help me watch her." Mr. S says, "Wish I could." Dack then says, "Maybe we could Skype or I'll get us pictures at least." Mr. S says, "We'll try. Have to do something." Dack says, "We will. That's why I offered to watch her." Mr. S then says, "I can't wait to see your pictures of P all up close." Dack then says, "I will definitely blank." Obviously, we can fill that in. "Her for you this time. Very close. I'll see how creative I can get. You'll be thinking about it the whole time I'm here, wondering what I'm doing." Mr. S then says, "Want so badly to touch. We'll find a way. Good night for now. Thank you, baby." Dack then says, "We will find a way. It's just a start. More opportunities will come. Sweet dreams, beautiful. See you soon in mine. Thank you." And then lastly, I would present the video and photo evidence. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to do that because, number one, I'm not going to show child porn in class. Figured that wouldn't be, a fun thing. But I would normally have these blurred where they need to be, but also showing what I possibly can without traumatizing the court. Just to drive home how guilty they were. And obviously these videos probably have voice. There's probably some kind of audio in there that will prove that it is them, which before I had mentioned in the defense's point of view, maybe they could prove that, or maybe they could try to say that it's not actually them, but if there was audio, it's gonna be them, and they can trace that back to time and place and everything like that. So I mean, you can tell that it's them by that. But just to kind of drive home that these kids were hurt and what was actually done to them, and drive home the point that this was definitely them. And then the outcome, from what I can tell, like I said, there's no real court documents, so I have to kind of play on news articles and such forth. But from what I can tell, they were convicted of their crimes. Like I said, I can't do anything because I don't really have court documented papers, but everything that I saw was saying they've been charged with, they've been accused of, and that kind of thing. But like I said, we had found the text evidence, which was given to us by Dack's other boyfriend, who had shown up and given it to the police, from what I could, once again, understand from the news articles. So that's how we came to know that these people were doing what they were doing. So the youngest was 12 months old, 11 months old from what I saw. I don't have any other ages except for the 11-month-old, which I am assuming is P, which was mentioned earlier in the text. This is a very unfortunate incident, but I'm glad that they were locked up. I kind of wish that the penalty was longer for crimes like this, but I understand why it's not as well, if that makes sense. Then I have all of my resources, so that should be it. Thank you for watching the presentation, and I hope you have a good day.